Hello, Internet. Recently, I found myself on a journey wandering through the world of Nier Replicant, and as I did, one burning question kept coursing through my mind. How? How did the world end up like this? So, like any sane person, I dove into the lore. And I'm here to tell you to run. Run as fast as you can before you too are cursed with this forbidden fruit. Because what I am about to explain to you is nothing short of trying to explain JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to somebody who has never seen it before. So hopefully, by the end of this, you will still have your sanity. Because I don't. Well, you see, to understand the world of Nier, you have to take a trip to the world of Drakengard. 3. Not 1. We'll get there soon. Don't worry about it. We'll just put it in the corner. We're starting on 3. 3's a prequel, okay? Drakengard is set in another dimension where dragons and magical powers exist. Here, you're introduced to an intoner named Zero. She and her 5 sisters can control magic through song. In the past, the intoners saved the countryside from ravaging warlords and became revered as gods. That is, until Zero discovered the truth behind the intoner's powers. An evil flower whose ultimate goal was the destruction of humanity. So like any human-loving member of a sisterhood filled with Deathflower worshippers, she makes the only logical decision: to kill all of her sisters and destroy the source of her powers. But not before one, her younger sister, removes one of her ribs like a reverse Adam and Eve scenario and makes a male clone of herself. Its sole purpose is to kill Zero if she happens to be the last one standing in this horror show of a bloodbath. And you know what? That clone succeeds. You see, originally, one had thought that her clone would end his own life after killing Zero. But oh, was she wrong? She was so very wrong, because that clone, instead of ending its life, decided to create the cult of the Watchers. Honoring Zero, his children would share the powers of the intoners, keeping the will of the flower alive instead of ending its grip on their world. Now, you might be asking, what does this have to do with Nier? Now, just hold on. Just give me a minute. We're getting there. All of this leads back to Drakengard 1 and a man named Kayam. You see, together with Angelus, his friend, the Red Dragon, he fights the Watchers who killed his parents. The Watchers, who were seeking the end of the world in accordance with the will of the flower, have figured out a way to create a portal to another dimension and summon an evil being to destroy all of humanity. And to do so, they seek out the seeds of destruction. Now, despite Kayam's best efforts with his dragon companion, the Watchers still manage to acquire all of the seeds and open the portal. And this is where things become a little bit more complicated, because out of all of the endings for Drakengard that we have, we're only concerned with ending E. In this ending, the Queen Beast is summoned through the portal, and in the last-ditch effort, Kayam uses the seeds to open another portal, sending himself and the beast into the world that Nier takes place in. They trap themselves in Tokyo 2003. The gigantic Queen Beast falls from the sky, crashing into Tokyo, and true to that early 2000s uncanny valley type of animation, the entire scene is haunting. Kneeling on the ground, back arched to the sky, staring at the heavens, she opens her mouth and starts the world's most epic music battle, with Kayam and Angelus answering every note blow for blow. And in the end, they stop the Queen Beast final song, and her body crumbles away to ash. But it's in that crucial final moment when Kayam and Angelus are catching their breath. Now, the Japanese military fires 2 missiles that change the course of humanity forever.
This is Bravo 1. Unidentified target has been neutralized. Over and out.
A red dragon falls from the sky, crumbling to ash, her rider beside her. The deaths of Kayam and Angelus fill the world with their magical essence, resulting in the devastating disease for the humans of this dimension called the White Chlorination Syndrome. In an attempt to protect their country, the Japanese government accidentally caused the annihilation of most of mankind. Now, you would think that this would lead us to where the story of Nier Replicant begins, but oh no. Buckle your seatbelt because this ride is just getting started. To find out what happened just before the start of Nier, I had to dive into the audio drama, The Lost Words, and the Red Sky. This story tells us about what happened in those 50 years after the red dragon fell from the sky. The White Chlorination Syndrome was no simple disease. You see, anyone that was infected with it was presented with a choice. You either form a pact with a god from another dimension, do their bidding, and rid the world of humanity, or refuse and turn into a pile of ash. Your choice. But since machines and technology seemed immune to the disease, they turned to the mass development of androids, observers, to watch humanity, gathering information on the White Chlorination Syndrome, and later to ensure the completion of humanity's most ambitious project. It had only been 6 months after the red dragon fell from the sky that people turned on humanity, one by one. Some turning into white monsters known as Legion, while others became the more powerful Red Eye, leading the Legion. For the next 30 years, they would be the greatest threat to humanity, until the Hamlin organization was able to find a way to avoid the contagion. This method was called gestaltalization. Gestalt meaning something made of many parts and yet somehow different from the combination of its parts. This process involved separating a person's soul from their physical body. The gestalt would then be decoded into a replicated human body. The consciousness of the replicant would be destroyed and suppressed so that the gestalt could inhabit it. Basically, they would make a clone of you based on the data from your gestalt, and then they would crush the free will of your clone until it was an empty shell that you could wear like skin. Now, this method wasn't without its faults. For instance, if a person spent too long as a gestalt, there was a 70% chance that they wouldn't be able to be restored, and that number moved closer to 100% if they relapsed, losing all sense of themselves and becoming more violent monsters that were almost no different from the Legion. However, since there were no other methods known to combat the disease, they announced plans to turn the world's population into gestalts in 2030. Now, believing that Japan was to blame for the disease, the world's governments forced them to shoulder the cost of the project, eventually leading them to seek out candidates with no living relatives that they could use to further the Gestalt experiments in 2050. All of this was just to find the perfect candidate with relapse-resistant DNA that they would codename the original Gestalt. Now, you see, after an incident involving Red Eye, Emil, and the original Kaine, the government moved to classify information on their existence, as well as Nier, the main protagonist for the game. Being the only one that was able to calm the raging Kaine and Emil, he was kept under surveillance by the Watchers. Now, during the opening scene of Nier Replicant, Nier and his sister are each seen with a copy of Grimoire Noir. These grimoire were issued out to each human in 2053 in order to turn the rest of the world's population into gestalts. However, each user had to consent to the process, and the grimoire would follow them around until they did. Nier was able to successfully form a pact with Grimoire Noir, becoming the perfect Gestalt, keeping his human form but gaining immense power. He was able to defeat hundreds of relapsed Gestalts in order to defend his sister. Yona, wanting to help her brother, also tried to form a pact with Grimoire Noir and became a Gestalt. However, since Yona was terminally ill when she made her Gestalt, it was flawed and dying, resulting in her case of the Black Scroll. After discovering Nier had become the original Gestalt, the government promised to include Yona in the Gestalt decryption process. However, due to the damage data collected during her Gestaltalization, it was discovered that she might never be able to properly decrypt into a replicant. Unable to find a way to save her, in the year 2053, the government put Yona's Gestalt into a deep, cold sleep for 1,000 years. In that time, the Gestalt program would be completed and achievements in medicine would likely be able to save her. At least, that's how it was supposed to go. You see, Nier, revered by the public as a shining hope for the human race, a hero and a lord, stays alive for 1,000 years. The Black Scroll slowly eating away at his body. He's barely able to maintain his sanity as a human. The determination to save his sister is the only thing sustaining him, along with Grimoire Noir. It's his only companion. So now, you know the events that led up to the story of Nier Replicant. And hopefully, as you go through this story, you'll be able to appreciate the tragedy that is slowly unfolding before your eyes. Or you'll huddle up into a ball, crying as you do things that you would never do if you knew what you were actually doing in the first place. It's your choice.
Thank you for playing!